Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, here to talk about the latest info on the upcoming, possibly doomed 2021 Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot in another entry of Wolfula News. Now, this video is a substitute for a Do Talking to Me video, more on why at the end of this vid. For now, let's talk Leatherface and everything known so far about his upcoming movie. Now, Lionsgate lost the rights to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise after only 2 films because they rightfully hesitated over releasing Leatherface in 2017. That film was shelved for a long time and went direct to video because it was a Leatherface prequel that didn't really have Leatherface in it, or anything you really would want from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And if it went to theaters, people would have been more pissed than if it quietly released to video. Consequently, though, I think Lionsgate's contract for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series was contingent on there being a new film in theaters every few years, and they fucked up on that and lost the rights, which were sold to Legendary Entertainment in 2018. This surprised me and kinda excited me because Legendary doesn't make a lot of horror movies, but they're not like Platinum Dunes where they're just using horror franchises to get their foot in the door. Legendary has been around for 16 years and has been involved in some of the biggest franchises with 4 films that made $1 billion at the box office. So to me, it felt promising that such a big studio would want to make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film of all things. My assumption was that there had to have been somebody at the studio who loved the original film and wanted to try to make a new film that did justice to the original. Now, I'm not so sure about that. I'm gonna state up front that this video is just based on press releases, rumors, and speculation. A trailer for this film hasn't been released yet, even though the movie is supposed to come out this year. But we have gotten a teaser poster while the film was in pre-production, and honestly, it doesn't give us a whole lot to go off of, but it's a great piece of art that does capture the foreboding, mysterious atmosphere of the original movie, and if you look closely at it, you can see a small silhouette of Leatherface. Cute. The poster did confirm early on that this would be another attempt at a direct sequel to the original film. That didn't go so well last time with Texas Chainsaw 3D, but after Halloween 2018 made $250 million on a $15 million budget, it's clear what the real reason behind making this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre film was. Legendary saw an opportunity to duplicate Blumhouse's Halloween success following the same formula but with Leatherface. This Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot is simply an experiment for Legendary to see if they can make a lot of money without spending the tons of money they usually spend on their movies. If this film succeeds, Legendary will probably make some little spin-off Blumhouse-like studio for horror films. Of course, when Legendary and a lot of other studios were planning to follow in Blumhouse's footsteps, a fucking pandemic has happened with movie theaters closed. The things that would have made these small horror movies a lot of potential money. So many horror movies were shelved because the studios realized these were movies that needed to be in theaters to be successful. But enough cynicism. We can go down this jaded train of thought all day and it'd just be poison for the mind. Point is, I'm kinda doubting the movie gets released this year, especially if it's meant to be a trial run for Legendary releasing horror movies in theaters. The current situation is far from ideal to test that out, especially since it'll be in competition with Halloween Kills most likely. Like, there's no way in hell this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie could stand a chance against Halloween Kills, let's be real. Anyway, let's talk about what we know about the movie's production so far. Well, from what we've been told, it's a big mess. First good news about it though is that Fede Alvarez is producer, and I gotta say, his Evil Dead reboot is a movie that a lot of people slept on. It's honestly a great Evil Dead film that just does its own thing and focuses on the horror and somehow made the Deadites feel believable on screen, which is key to the appeal of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, gritty believability. Of course, that's pretty much the only good news about this movie so far. Initially, Irish directors Ryan and Andy Tohill were attached to the film. To me, that's a bad sign because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is fundamentally an American horror franchise, and they tried a European director the last time, and we ended up with the least entertaining Texas Chainsaw Massacre film you could possibly make. Strike one. Then it was announced that this Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie would be shooting in Bulgaria again. This is the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre film shot in Bulgaria. Joe Bob Briggs taught us 31 years ago that you don't shoot a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie anywhere but in Texas. It's in the name. If you're too cheap to shoot in Texas, you shouldn't be making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. You especially shouldn't shoot it in fucking Europe. You'd think Legendary would learn a lesson from the last mistake made with the franchise and actually shoot in Texas as a sign of good faith, but it's definitely looking like they just don't give a shit. Strike two. Then, of course, 1 week into production of the film, the brothers Tohill quit the film, most likely due to creative differences. This could possibly be a good thing. They were replaced by David Blue Garcia, an actual Texan filmmaker, but Garcia has only directed once and is mostly a cinematographer. It's also a serious bad sign that the change of director happened so late, when they were already shooting the film and desperate to find a replacement in the middle of a pandemic, when a production is chaotic enough, and you have this inexperienced director having to hit the ground running. The making of this film has to be a complete mess, most likely. So strike three, they're out of here. But what's this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie about, though? All we know so far is that they're going for the Halloween 2018 approach in a very obvious way. There's going to be a 60-year-old Leatherface played by Mark Burnham, which is very strange because this movie takes place in 2021, apparently. So you're trying to tell me Leatherface was 13 in the original movie? Must have had a really accelerated puberty. Mark Burnham himself is a big guy, and he does look a bit like Gunnar Hansen, so there's that at least, even though we probably won't see his face, of course. My fear with this movie, though, is that it's going to go down the same destructive route Texas Chainsaw 3D went down, where it's an old Leatherface by himself. We've heard next to nothing about Leatherface having a family in this film, and it's a continuation of the original film nearly 50 years later. Nubbins died, the cook would be in his 100s, and Grandpa would be pushing 200. I hope Leatherface does have a family, because that dynamic is what separates the franchise from a typical slasher series. Leatherface's family defines him, and are the true evil of these films. The other thing this new Texas Chainsaw film borrows from Halloween 2018 is the returning heroine. In this case, Sally Hardesty is coming back, but it's a baffling choice to me that doesn't carry the same meaning as Jamie Lee Curtis returning. Marilyn Burns has passed away, so the old Sally Hardesty is played by a different actress named Olwen Ferrer. I don't know how to pronounce her name. This feels completely pointless, just trying to emulate Halloween 2018's formula, but if it's not the same person, it carries no significance seeing her face off against Leatherface. It might as well be a totally different character. It just seems incredibly stupid thinking anybody would give a shit about Sally Hardesty returning, played by somebody else. She was a character that appeared in one movie besides a cameo. She jumped out a window and luckily got away. Why would she be drawn back into Leatherface's world? Coincidence? Maybe revenge? Maybe she has a surprising connection to Leatherface that's revealed? But so far, it just feels like an attempt to just recreate Halloween 2018's formula exactly. The weird thing is that on IMDb, two actresses are listed as being cast as Sally, the other being Alice Craig. I'm kind of wondering if that means there's going to be flashbacks or something, or there's some confusion over who plays Sally, or maybe Sally got recast in reshoots. I don't know, it's really confusing. This whole thing is confusing. As for the story itself, all we've been told about plot details is that it's about two sisters from San Francisco. Melody, the oldest sister, is a businesswoman who brings along on a business trip to Texas her handicapped teen sister named Dreama, which sounds like the kind of name you'd read in a fucking Harry Potter fanfiction. It goes without saying that the two girls end up pursued by Leatherface, but honestly, who's gonna root for somebody named Dreama to survive? She already manages to sound less likable than Franklin. So yeah, what we know so far about Texas Chainsaw 2021 is unappealing. There's probably some good reasons why we haven't heard or been shown much of anything about the movie so far. Still, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre had a chaotic production that translated well to the screen. Maybe the strenuous circumstances surrounding this new film could actually benefit it in the same ways. Still, I wouldn't hold out too much hope, but even so, I still have a bit of hope, all things considered. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite horror film ever, and I want the best for any sequel to it. I want this film to be successful and good. I want to watch a good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, ultimately. I'm just a little, skeptical about this one so far. Now, on to the channel news. Well, the reason why there wasn't a Dude Talking to Me vid today is because we're extremely busy making a much bigger Scooby video at the moment. The Gulag, Goulash's upcoming spin-off channel, is launching with a giant review of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island that guest stars me. If you haven't subscribed to the Gulag yet, there's a link to it in the description or by clicking this card. Also, because we're so preoccupied with the Zombie Island vid, my private bonus Q&A video this month on Patreon has been postponed, so if you're a Patreon supporter and haven't asked a question yet, you still can. Link to the announcement posted in the description as well. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I would like to occasionally make these short toon videos again, just between my longer live action vids, so let me know if you enjoyed this, and if you'd like some more news videos in the future. You know, I'd love any positive reinforcement I can get, honestly. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. I'd also like to thank these fine folks pledged my shout-out tier on Patreon for all their kind support. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you for watching, see you next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.